everyone. Welcome to the District 13 County Board Supervisor Candidate Forum presented by the Associated Students of Madison, BadgersVote, and the Campus Area Neighborhood Association. My name is Amanjot, and I am from BadgersVote. I will be your timekeeper and one of your in-person facilitators / hosts today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our wonderful candidates for agreeing to come here today and partaking in this forum.
Hi, my name is Sarah Nels. I'm from the Associated Students of Madison. I'm the vote coordinator, and I'll also be your Zoom host tonight.
Hi there, my name is Kaylee Bell. Alongside Amanjot, I'm the other BadgersVote co-lead intern, and I also am a democracy fellow for the Campus Vote Project. And yeah, so we'll be your moderators for tonight's candidate.
I would like to remind you all this forum is available both in person and also on Zoom, and that a recorded version of this forum is going to be made available on the CANA website and YouTube channel. If you have a question to ask our candidates, please scan the QR codes that are going to be on each side, and then also like other options would be to come and speak to a moderator or use the Q&A function in the Zoom. So joining us tonight are our candidates, the incumbent supervisor, Jake Bauer, Travis Alston, and wait, I actually want to make sure I pronounce your name right.
Yeah, Ronan Rataj.
Ronan Rataj. A quick disclaimer before we begin: these campaigns have agreed to the rules of this forum beforehand. Your hosts have collaborated to create the format for this event. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to answer each question, and it will be granted an additional 30 seconds to respond if they're mentioned in another candidate's response and want to rebut. The order for answering questions is going to be different for each question to ensure fairness. The questions will be formed using public input on the question form that was released by BadgersVote last Thursday. Audience members will have 1 minute to ask their questions. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to audience questions. If you have a question, once again, please utilize the Q&A function in Zoom or use the QR code on each slide for the question.
All right. Finally, if you have any questions about voting, getting involved with ASM, BadgersVote, or the Campus Area Neighborhood Association, you can come speak to us after or message us or find us. The ASM office is right there and is open to anybody at any time. So, well, SAC is open. So you should pop in and chat. We're happy to help you. And we have plenty of resources, so please don't be shy.
And with that, we're going to begin our forum. We're going to start with our opening statements from each of our candidates. And once again, to reiterate, our candidates will have 2 minutes to describe who they are and why they decided to run for this position. And we will start with our incumbent and then move down the line.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. It's great to be here. It's great to be in a room with so many people interested in local politics. That's where democracy starts. To begin with, I'd like to make an acknowledgement that this event is happening on Ho-Chunk land, and to me that means that we think about and reckon with our history and our place in it. I'd also like to recognize and thank our gracious hosts who have put on this event. It's very difficult to put together an event of any size, so I'm very appreciative to that. And then I'd also like to thank Travis and Ronan for attending here, because having an open, vibrant, energetic debate about policy ideas is the groundwork of democracy. So just a little bit about me and how I come to this forum. In my full-time work, in addition to being the incumbent supervisor in District 13, I'm a full-time union organizer, and unions in general in our society are one of the ways that we rebalance power. So you've no doubt heard a lot about corporate power and the effect of money and the way that owners like Jeff Bezos control a lot of society, the way we shop, the way we interact with the world. And what unions do is try to rebalance the power in the service of workers. So people who do work every day, makes the economy run, deserve a fair share of the proceeds, whether it's in healthcare, retail, fast food. You've probably heard about an effort among Starbucks workers here in Madison to unionize. That's what I do. I bring people together in coalitions. And that's not just a buzzword. That means bringing people together who have a diverse set of views to act in the service of one goal, which is rebalancing power in favor of the work. Before I was a union organizer, I was a professor, and before that a student for 10 years. So I've spent a lot of time building the idea of the university and society and thinking about the role of students and the way that students engage with the university and the economy. And that's in part why I shifted my work to being a union organizer, to think about how to rebalance that power, which education is part of that equation, and unions are another part and have been for 95 years or so since the National Labor Relations Act passed.
All right, next.
So, hi, my name is Travis Austin, and I'm also one of the candidates here, of course. I'm a recent graduate from UW-Madison. I graduated back in 2023 with a degree in political science, as well as certificates in public policy and environmental studies. This fall, I'll actually be a grad student. I got accepted into the fall MPA program, and we'll be starting my Master's of Public Affairs, studying policy analysis and what policies are actually truly working and not through quantitative analysis and statistical methods that I'll be glad to be learning far more about. I learned a bunch of this from my undergrad certificate through local school. I'm glad to be able to continue that work even further. Currently, I'm in a gap year, so I'm currently working for the UW Athletic Department. Just professionally speaking, I have an interest in sports policy and also policy regarding music and entertainment, because I know the Camp Randall and the campus culture and entertainment is a big vibrant part of Madison, and it's been part of my experience. I was a member of the UW band for my 4 years during undergrad, and so I'm hoping to eventually take my experiences from a master's program and apply it into the future. And then I'm running for this position because I've actually held elected office previously. I was serving on my town board in Northwest Dane County. It's called the Town of Berry. It's a very small township, only about 1,000 people. It's where I grew up. And so I've been a Dane County resident pretty much my whole life. And I was glad to be able to serve my hometown. I was glad to be able to bring a young voice to that type of a rural township, so where things are not necessarily conducive to young liberal voices. I was able to bring that type of a perspective. This past summer, I actually made a little bit of local news. I had the cops called to a pride event I hosted in my hometown. Our town chairman decided it was advantageous to use the Dane County Sheriff's Office resources. And so that's part of the reason why I also know I have experience with the Dane County Sheriff's Office and how a lot of their work is actually with the rural communities of our county.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, and last but not least, you may begin your 2-minute opening statement.
Sure. So, hi everyone. Again, thank you for hosting the event. Thanks for showing up, everybody, and participating in our democracy. My name is Ron Rataj. I am a lifelong Madison resident. I actually went to high school just down the road from here. Now I'm an undergraduate student at UW. I also have served for 2 years on the Dane County Board's Public Protection and Judiciary Committee, which is one of the biggest committees on the Dane County Board. We handle things like homelessness, the jail project, the Sheriff's Department, things like that. And over those 2 years, I really gained the skills that you need to be an effective representative. I understand the process, how to introduce legislation. I've gotten things, I didn't have a ton of power as the youth representative on that committee, but what power I did have, I used effectively, try to push forward the ideas that our youth really cared about in our county. And now I'm running for this district because I think it's time that our students really have a voice in our local government. I'm running because there is a divide between our local government and our student body that I think we need to bridge. I'm running because students cannot find housing, and every year it seems like affordable housing is being knocked down in place of new high-rise luxury apartments that have hot tubs in the rooms and cost $2,000 a month for 1 bedroom, and that's just not affordable for students, and it's going to drive students away from our campus. I'm running because students, myself included, were more stressed sending out renters applications than they were studying for their finals week. I'm running because we're going to have a huge climate crisis coming up. In 2050, the Middle East will be almost uninhabitable, the current track we're on. There will be hundreds of millions of people displaced, and that's going to affect every county in this country, including our own. We need to be ready with social safety nets to really adjust to the new world that we're going to end up living in. And I'm also running because you've heard about balancing power structures here. I think a really big power structure that we need to balance is our local government. Right now, this seat is not held by a student. It historically has been held by a student. There are a very large amount of students or recently graduated students who are living in this district. Oh, got it.
Thank you, candidate. Your time has elapsed. Next, we're going to move on to some of our topical questions. And just as a reminder, these questions were submitted to the BadgersVote Instagram by students and people in the community. So our first question will be regarding the topic of affordable housing. So we're going to start with Travis. The question is, how do you plan to use your position as supervisor to address the housing crisis in Madison?
Yeah, glad people are, that's a great segue from Roman actually as well. Because affordable housing is the top issue in our community for students particularly. We face the issue of students are a fixed guaranteed renter population. And so there is no market incentive for landlords to ever have to create affordable housing. You have almost a guaranteed 40 to 50,000 people that will live within about 2 miles of the campus. And so as a result, we have a market failure. And so there needs to be government action. The unfortunate fact is that we have a state statute that prevents local governments from creating rent control and many other forms of lease restrictions that usually are the most effective when it comes to implementing change. So we have to use what we can at the county level, our budget, the funds that the county have, it's largely how we fund policy. And so I'm hoping to be able to use county funds to be able to create some of the loan programs that we've had and actually seen one from the city of Madison recently for fixing up affordable housing around campus, for lower and smaller buildings. We have a loan program for doing those repairs, and I'm hoping to create a similar style of program from the county that's geared primarily towards these, high rent areas, but also towards the broader, Dane County at large to subsidize more affordable housing through these loan programs, because we shouldn't be giving renters money and sort of saying, here's just a handout and, try to make those affordable housing and promising, for a certain period of time. We should actually hold them accountable, because the loan means that the funds are being utilized and given back to the county, be recycled and done again, because interest rates are so high right now that actually can be a motivating factor. And that's one of the biggest prohibiting things we can see when it comes to development recently is the massive, spikes of interest rates have been a big, hamper on development.
Great. Thank you. Your time has elapsed. All right, moving on. Once again, to reiterate the question, how do you plan to use your position as supervisor to address the housing crisis in Madison? You may begin your 2-minute response.
Sure. So I actually agree with a lot of what Travis said here, but I think that if you're just using funds to fix up the existing affordable housing, you're not going to be able to fix the market, because the truth is every year UW admits more students, right? We just had our highest population of freshman class ever, and they're all going to be moving into the housing market. And it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. We get more and more applicants every year, and we are accepting more and more people into our school every year. So the unfortunate truth is developing and building more apartment buildings is an important measure that our county needs to take. The problem is who's doing it and what types of housing they're building. So it's people who are out of state that are coming in and seeing this as a way to make money. They're not viewing it as a way to help our community. So they're building these luxury apartment buildings, right? We said the James, the Verve, the Hub are all recent ones that have been built. There's 4 more that are under construction right now, and they're all increasing in price every year. What we need to use our county money to do is to incentivize developers to make housing that is less square footage with less amenities per unit, that has more beds per unit, that is just reasonable, right, for students. People don't need a bunch of square footage and a private pool and a hot tub, because you can't even use the pool for most of the year. It's too cold. People just need a safe place to live nearby their classes that's actually affordable. We have so many students here who are on scholarship as well, who cannot afford living in these market prices. So that's what I would want to use our county funds to do, is to keep developing the land, keep building more housing, but make it affordable.
Maybe
All right, so I'm running as a progressive Democrat, and the foundation of that is creating policies that raise up the whole community. And so to think about affordable housing, we need to think broadly across the county and all of the neighboring communities, McFarland, Stoughton, that are trying to build affordable housing, and how the county can affect that as well. In the city of Madison, the county has very little ability to affect building housing. They can be a participant and a partner in that. If we look to the Olive development, for instance, the reason why that was successful in securing reduced cost student beds is because the city of Madison was able to grant a variance for the developer so they could build 2 more floors, and they otherwise couldn't have done. And that is something that the city of Madison can specifically do that the can. Because in the county, we do not have control over the city of Madison. So what the county can do, and I had a nice conversation at the Campus Area Neighborhood Association meeting with the co-chairs of the association about ways that the county might be able to provide some technical assistance to ease some of the burdens in the rental market. So the story I've heard from many people, past and present, going back 20 years, is that affordable rentals are most accessible when you know somebody. When you know somebody who passes on the rental, the name, and so to figure out a way where we could perhaps create a pool of opportunities that go beyond just realtor.com. One of the things that I would do in specific is also provide more money for the Tenant Resource Center. They do important work with addressing issues around housing. And also in the stack of funding. So when we think about what county government can do over just broadly, in the stack of funding the developers put together, the county is just a tiny little sliver of that amount of money. Because what they really rely on, developers really rely on are low income housing tax credits. And those are not available by law, by federal law, to anyone who's a student.
All right, your time has elapsed. Thank you all for your responses. Mr. Austin, you were referenced by another candidate, so if you so choose, you may have a 30-second period to respond. Otherwise, you may yield that time to the chair.
Yeah, so I just caveat a little bit of I agree with Ron, we need to build more housing. I think that it wasn't very clear about the program I was trying to talk about was to incentivize building more housing. I was referencing the program that the city of Madison does to subsidize repairs to point an example. That's all.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, and on to our second topic tonight. We've had submitted questions about organized labor. The question is, how will you work to support organized labor as a county board supervisor? Again, you'll all have 2 minutes, and for this one, we're going to start with Big Ron.
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is you can't have organized labor if you don't have people bringing into the workforce. And so something that our county needs to prioritize is creating more opportunities still for students who are graduating to find how, jobs that will allow them to be able to live in the county, to be able to buy houses, to be able to, rebuild our middle class, keep our middle class going. But in terms of labor unions themselves, one specific area that I think our county really should be focusing on is like public sector unions, building those up, making sure, we have a lot of vacancies for county jobs. Our county has a lot of jobs. There's a lot of open jobs. So making those more competitive and allowing people to create and join public sector unions in an easier way, something our county should be doing. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is, when you hear our responses, you'll see I'm not the most expert on labor unions on this stage. And I think that that's okay for a county board supervisor. None of us are going to know everything about every issue. The most important thing that a supervisor can do is to be active in the community, to call on those who this decision affects their everyday life, who work in the unions every day, no matter what issue it is, if it's housing, call on people who are struggling with affordable housing, talk to land developers, and really listen into many perspectives to make your decision. So that's something I will guarantee that I do as a county board supervisor, is I'll listen. And I'll also tell people what I'm going to vote on before the vote happens. So that way, if you disagree, you can let me know.
Thank you. All right, and then we're going to move to Jay to answer the question. How will you work to support organized labor as a county board supervisor?
It's a good question for me, since this is sort of what I do every day in a variety of fashions. So at the county level, we have public sector employee associations, which are like unions, and they play an important role in county government. We have an amazing county staff. We're a leader in the state, we're a leader in the country in the array and quality of services we provide. And part of the reason for that is because we have dedicated workers who have ground level knowledge of the people they work with, programs they administer. We need to make sure that their voice is centered in the administration of the department. So one of the things that I have been doing as a supervisor is talking with rank and file union members to discuss the concerns they have in their department. So rising up and centering those voices. Also to ensure that the county is doing business with contractors who may not be doing direct work with unions, but are employing high road contractors and vendors. And this is actually the subject of some legislation that I have right now before the board that talks about race and gender inclusion, apprenticeship programs, which are hugely important to building the workforce, health and safety standards, and also fair wages. So making sure the county policy and the type of contractors and vendors we employ match the best interests of workers in the community. Because when we are able to build up a strong middle class through providing good jobs, we can build a vibrant economy. And in addition to that, I would also say that the county should continue to maintain its responsible bidder ordinance, as well as its best value contracting, which it put in place some of those values and ensure that they're enshrined in county government ordinance.
Thank you. All right, and now same question to Travis. How will you work to support organized labor as a county board supervisor?
So yeah, I very much think this is a very good question for Jay. I appreciate the work that he does very much as a union organizer. I've come from, both of my parents are teachers, and so I distinctly remember when Act 10 was passed, it changed the way my family operated. It was also right on top of the same time, right following the 2008 recession, which my dad had trouble with his second job. He was making less money, and so my family very much was struggling from that aspect, because the moment Act 10, it was enacted, my parents' wages pretty much froze, and seeing that was tough. And so I very much value the effort that organized labor has, because I've seen how it has an impact when it's taken away. I myself actually just recently joined AFSCME 2412. It's actually the local association for UW-Madison administrative positions, which is what I fall under at the athletic department. I was glad to hear about their existence, because one of the things that, quite frankly, public sector employees just don't hear about, because oh, you need, like Act 10, we can't have unions and stuff, and so what's the point anyways? And these associations that Jay has been referencing are amazing institutions, and I would want to work with them hand in hand to make sure that the positions they represent in the county government are, quite frankly, supported and helped all the way. I also hope to spur within the healthcare sector far more and encourage healthcare workers themselves to be able to unionize and speak up for themselves. My best friend, who graduated the same year as I did, is now working in a mental health care facility on the west side of Madison and Middleton. And just hearing stories about understaffing and horrible work conditions that she endures in being one of these diversion programs for mental health from our criminal justice system, and how she openly said she cries multiple times a day sometimes. And it's just quite frustrating to know.
Thank you. Your time has elapsed. And Jay, you were referenced by another candidate, so if you would like, you have a 30-second period to respond. If not, you may yield that time to the chair. So
Never disagree with anyone who agrees with me.
sounds good.
All right, okay, well then we'll move on to the last question, which is pretty open actually. It's just, what do you see as the largest single issue affecting your constituents, and how do you plan to address this issue? And the first person up for that is.
All right, so we've talked a lot about affordable housing and the crisis related to affordability in stock. There's no doubt that we need to take action on that. One of the things that we need to do in specific is come up with creative financing deals, so we provide people an opportunity to participate in the housing market without, if it's a purchase, with lowering the barrier to entry, like lowering the amount of money you need to purchase a house broadly in the county, and then also finding ways that we can connect people with resources. I think it's a very innovative idea that the Olive Development again employed in utilizing the financial aid office on campus to certify student need as a way to participate in housing. So to see ways that the county could again provide technical assistance. The money is going to be a drop in the bucket. The ability to zone in the city, not going to happen. But what the county can provide is making it easier for those developments to happen through connecting people with resources and ensuring that those resources work smoothly. By and large, the county is going to participate outside of Madison because the city of Madison has affordable housing fund, but the county can provide some of those technical assistance elements. And so I see that as the biggest issue in some of the ways that
All right, thank you. And then next, to reiterate the question, what do you see as the largest single issue affecting your constituents? How do you plan to address this issue? We have Travis.
But I mean, once again, affordable housing is the obvious answer. Students particularly are like a massive majority of this district, and they find affordable housing to be the top issue always on mind. And we've discussed plenty about that, and I think additionally to, utilizing funds from the county level to dedicate towards assisting student housing in many different aspects. We also should take a look at what ways we can maybe find a way around the state statute, because they've done a very good job of pretty much hammering out any single restriction you could possibly think of. We might have the opportunity to be able to define what a rental agreement is a bit more strictly than what the state statute per se says, because it's kind of vague. And in my opinion, if the county can, or even the city or the county as a whole can find a way to restrict leases so they aren't occurring more than 6 months out, that would be a massive help to students alone. We had mentioned previously in this discussion, the information gap that occurs when it comes to finding affordable housing, which is you have to know somebody. And quite frankly, the fact that students are dropped in freshman year and are expected to know who they're going to live with and secure housing in less than 3 months after they have just started college as a freshman is quite frankly untenable. No one's going to be able to do the proper research that they need to be able to find affordable housing in the technical market. And so hence there's no reason for even competition to exist amongst the landlords in the area as a result. You find, like I know personally from work, a person who manages their own building that she lives in, and it's like far east side of Madison, and areas on campus very much don't have the same type of a system where you have to have basically your lease secured 9-10 months in advance before it starts.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Rona.
Yeah, so, I mean, you've heard about housing a lot, and that is the most important issue. But I think something we should look at is that word constituents up there. If there was a fourth candidate on this panel that was called did not vote, they would beat all of us in a landslide. There would be no point in any of us running. And part of that is because a lot of students are moving here, both in state and out of state, to a new address. And they're switching addresses every year, and it is incredibly difficult to register to vote in their county for students. Many of my friends are not from the state, and they either need a passport and a proof of address, or they need to go to, out of their way to the WIS card office to print out a separate voter ID, or they need to pay money to print it out in the basement of wherever they're living if there is a printer there. And that's really a barrier that we can't afford to have if we want students and everyone to participate in our democracy. So, you've heard a lot about the state statutes limiting the county, and that's true. But our county also has a lobbyist, an employee that is just there to advocate on behalf of the county to the state government. I think we need to strengthen that position. I think we need to use our influence as the second largest county in the state to really try to push, and we're right in the Capitol's back door, try to push them to allowing students to use their WIS card as a voter ID. I feel like that's a very easy fix. That should be policy, but we can't have it right now because there are attempts to stop students from voting. So other than housing, that's really the issue I think we need to fix. So that way, once there's another issue that is bigger than housing, students can actually voice their opinions on it. Or for housing, students can actually voice their opinions on it in our elections.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, so now we're gonna move into the audience Q&A portion. If you have a question, you can feel free to either submit using the code. Yeah, you can submit it there, or if you want, you can just come up and ask, since we're in this space. Give you a moment.
Does anyone in the audience have a question they want to ask our candidates?
I know somebody has. Someone's. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right,
Right.
thank you.
Where do I go?
Whatever you
Right
want to
here?
do, whatever.
Wherever it's comfortable.
Yeah.
Hi, okay. Hi, my name is James. I'm a student here at UW. So my question is specifically for Mr. Brower. Is it okay to ask the candidate the question directly? Is that
Yeah,
allowed?
that's okay.
Okay, question for Mr. Brower. So first of all, like, thank you for stepping into this role while the seat was vacant. I appreciate you coming in at a time when like our district did not have representation. We have two student candidates running right now, one current and then one that's going to be returning in the fall. And like, if I'm being candid, like I do have concerns about being represented by a non-student. So my question for you is, now that we have two students running for this position, that would be representing a largely student district, why do you feel like you are the best choice to continue representing this district?
Yeah, so when we think about like what a community of interest is, and that is how redistricting happens. So the district that it encompasses, or the area that encompasses District 13 used to be different. They used to end west of Camp Randall and extend out into the Regent neighborhood. And then the area to the east of Camp Randall was a different district. And so when the redistricting committee came up with the concept, they said, what's the community of interest? What factors do these neighborhoods respectively share? And one of those components is a large university constituency. So in the Regent neighborhood, there are many faculty, there are many people involved in the university. I consider myself, in a sense, one of them, having been a professor, not at UW-Madison, but for a good number of years. And so I feel very involved in the concerns and interests of students. I've watched for 10 years students struggle through the experience of undergraduate education, working at least one, if not two or three jobs. And that's part of the reason why I became a union organizer, to participate more directly in the economy, to rebalance power. So from that perspective of being able to think through the needs of students, I feel like I have a depth of experience there. Also, I spent 10 years as a student myself, so I have a lot of experience from that perspective. Also, one of the things, and I'm going to give him a plug, Logan Jansen, my campaign manager, amazing first year student here at UW-Madison, majoring in political science and economics. Logan is the central nervous system of my campaign. And so I've brought a diversity of voices and different stages and engagement with the university into my campaign. So that's been one very concrete. You can't center the voice of a constituency much more than making one of the concerned parties your campaign manager. And he's doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more audience questions?
Yeah, we can do that. Let's hop into one of the other questions. We have more,
Okay.
just in case there were.
Yeah, we had a few other questions that we didn't get to, so we'll do one of those. If you have anything, feel free to use that time. So we'll start with. Which one do we?
Yeah. I feel like
Is
the
that the
fourth
first
one is
person
kind
who's
of a.
joining us tonight?
Yeah, the fourth, the question number 4, I think, is something that we haven't really touched on, but pretty relevant issue.
I don't know why it's so low. Okay, so, yeah, okay, great, we'll do that one. And for this one, we will be starting with Travis. Again, you'll each have 2 minutes. I'll recite the question every time we switch. So the first question, what ideas do you have for public transportation in Madison and Dane County? What policies would you propose for improving Dane County's transportation systems?
Yeah, for the most part, currently transportation is, public transit is handled singularly by the city of Madison, because although I've recently heard that, the village of Oregon, is like looking to set their own system. And so that I think makes us recognize as a county that we need to start thinking broader than just the city of Madison and the metro system as a singular aspect. That if we honestly need like a robust regional transit plan and authority to be able to start planning the county out at large, to be able to connect people. Quite frankly, that there's a singular bus line that gets you to Epic, one of the massive like hubs of economic activity in the county, is kind of bizarre in my opinion, because that is one of the massive areas where we can also, reduce the need for cars. I have lived around Dane County for the my entire life for the most part. And I distinctly can know that the traffic around Madison has gotten progressively worse and worse and worse over the past decade. And it's because we haven't been, like building out our transit system as our counties develop and increasingly developed, not invested enough in connecting people and get able to make sure that people live near where they work. I have the fortunate ability that I work for UW Athletics and I can walk and Randall to work, but most people cannot live in that type of situation. And so we're thinking about, like what we need to incentivize as a county as a whole. We need to make sure that we coordinate with our municipalities and incentivize developing jobs and housing in tandem. So people can live near where they work and be able to commute and transit, like especially even with students, because without a robust transit network, students are forced to live near campus. We had a far better transit system, we'd actually be able to expand the student housing availability because we'd be able to provide transit in the campus far easier.
All right, thank you. Your time has elapsed.
All right. Same question. What ideas do you have for public transportation in Madison and Dane County? What policies would you propose for improving Dane County's transportation systems? This time, this will go to Ron.
Sure. So during my 2 years on the Dane County Board's Public Protection Judiciary Committee, one of the things I did is help lead a research-based project to present to the county that was based on how we prevent crime in our neighborhoods. And I know that's something that students are concerned about. That's something I'm concerned about when I'm walking from college libraries, things like that. And the number one way that we can reduce crime as a county is by increasing access to after-school programs for our high school students that are living nearby here. The biggest barrier of which is transportation. So students just after school can't get to and from after-school programs in our county, and it's costing them to not have anything to do after school. And that is the number one causer of crime or the number one way to prevent crime, at least in our county. So what I would propose that we do is increase the amount of public transportation that we have going from public schools to various community centers to the university itself, because there's many after-school programs for students at the university. And just really any after-school programs that we have in the county, because that's how we solve some of the issues we have in the criminal justice system, especially the racial disparity problem, because again, that's one that's caused by this lack of affordable transportation that students have to getting after school programs. So that sounds, it's, a bit of an abstract concept there, but that is how we, in the long term, prevent crime.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jay, what ideas do you have for public transportation in Madison and Dane County? What policies would you propose for improving Dane County's transportation systems?
Yeah, so I'm working with people across the county, commute into Madison. One of the key factors is the lack of interconnection in transportation routes. So people who can't afford a car, can't afford to operate a car on a regular basis, who are coming from outer ring municipalities have a difficult time connecting their bus route into Madison. So working through the framework of economic development and on the board, I would work to find ways that we could provide, again, technical assistance, because that's one of the key contributions of county government, so that we could understand the ways that the workforce commutes into Madison, the way that students commute into Madison, because we know students are pushed further and further out for Pittsburgh and beyond, so that transportation can be made as seamless as possible. And that's something that the county can do. It's very hard to affect other kinds of municipal policies that relate to schools, or how to tell a municipality how to operate their bus system in that municipality. But when it comes to the interconnection, the county is a legitimate importance. And that's something that doesn't require the development of a bunch of new infrastructure. It requires the capacity to examine and propose changes to existing, let's say bus routes is just one concrete, tangible example, to better meet the needs of the riders who utilize the services and come from outside of Madison. The city of Madison is going to be focused on residents in the city of Madison, but the county can stitch together those resources to include neighboring communities to affect the ways and the availability of transportation for workforce considerations.
Thank you.
So we did get an audience question, in the form for the student candidates. So for Travis and Ronan, how will you balance schoolwork and representing our district? Is the question that was asked.
You're in a gap, you said, right?
What?
You said you're currently in a
I'm
gap.
currently in a gap.
Yeah, the in grad.
But
So
in
we'll-
fall.
Yes, but
Yeah.
yes.
Just for clarification.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
sorry, Travis, you can start.
Okay, so yeah, I'm currently in a gap year, so I'm currently not a student. I'm currently working a full-time job, but eventually will become a student. I've already actually done this balance. For the like last 1.5 years of my time, of college, I was both a elected official and a student. So I've already known how to do the balance of schoolwork and being an elected official and representing my hometown. That was because, I got connected to my hometown politics during COVID. I picked up cycling, and you're very in tune with your local road qualities, to say the least, when you're on a bicycle versus a car. And so, my local town's roads were horrendous, and so that's what eventually spurred me to run for my town board. And I still felt more connected to that community until I graduated college and realized that that was like a sunsetting phase of my life. And that I was really truly a Madison resident now, even though I still live in Dane County. And so when it comes to striking that balance, I've already done it. I already know how to be able to balance that type of situation. And so I hope that takes into people's considerations.
Thank you. Ronan?
Yeah, so I've also dealt with this balance in a way before. So again, as I said, I served for 2 years on the Dane County Board of Public Protection and Judiciary Committee, where I had responsibilities of showing up to this committee whenever we met, which is one of the main things we do as a county board representative. And that was when I couldn't drive. I didn't live in a walkable distance to the Dane County Board building, and I also was in high school, so I went to school for 7 hours a day and had 4 hours of homework at night. And I had volleyball and a bunch of other things I was doing, mixing around. So my point is that I've managed time before in going to county board meetings, and I can do it again. I can plan my schedule around meetings. It's a pretty, so it was like I just walked to the county building the other day, and it was like 15 minutes ish. So yeah, I can make it to all the meetings, can show up and represent it.
Thank you. Last call for our final audience question, if anyone has one. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Chelsea. I'm the ASM student. I was really interested because Wisconsin is I forgot the name for it, but kind of an island state for cannabis legalization. And I was curious of what each of your policy response would be to if in the case cannabis use would be legalized, what your policy response would be to regulating and ensuring.
And for that one, Wendy will start. Yeah.
That's a great question. Obviously, the county is going to have very little ability to affect that policy, but I think generally Colorado ran a very effective campaign several years ago, which is regulate and tax cannabis like alcohol. And so that would be my policy. I think that makes sense.
All right, Travis.
So yeah, currently speaking, I believe in Dane County, we consider cannabis just as a low priority enforcement. So basically speaking, if the Dane County Sheriff or for the most part, any municipal officer typically they deal with infractions of cannabis in Wisconsin, they really just defer and don't deal with it because quite frankly, it's been a shame what the racial disparities that have emerged specifically just from cannabis when it comes to the enforcement and the discrepancy with enforcement. This is an issue that will be just dealt with at the state level. But if it were to be passed at the state level, right? The county, I believe that Colorado system is a very good one. One thing that we have to take into account then is also, there's the alcohol culture on campus, right? And we have to make sure that these types of regulations are actually enforced properly. The drinking culture on campus is going to be the drinking culture on campus. And I would find it to be a shame that, underage use skyrockets, especially amongst high schoolers. That's when it's a critical phase of development and ensuring that we if it's legalized, so we, protect those involved.
Interact.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I already have a pretty good relationship from my and 2 years on the Code Protection Judiciary Committee with Sheriff Barrett, Sheriff of the Dane Sheriff's Department. I'd also want to create a relationship with our district attorney, Commissioner Ozon, to limit the enforcement against low-level marijuana offenses in the county, like we kind of already been doing as a county, making sure we keep that up. In terms of if it does get legalized at the state level, I think something that we need to pay attention to is if we enforce it like we do alcohol, how do the penalties affect students with different backgrounds? So right now, drinking tickets are a sort of progressive way of kind of taxing people, which means that, students who come from an affluent background, a couple $100 isn't going to break them, but other students come from backgrounds where, they can't afford a $500 prize fee. And so I think that making sure that while yes, we enforce it so it's not derailing anyone's life, we also understand that people's brains aren't developed until it's like 28 now, it's 25, and this thing is even older now. People make decisions that maybe aren't the best for them, but it really shouldn't become a financial burden that their family can't recover from. And so we need to make sure that we're enforcing it in a way that's fair to people and doesn't punish people just from their background, for doing the exact same offense.
Thank you. Okay, before we move into closing remarks, were there any other questions? All right, okay, good.
Awesome. Then we're going to close up the audience Q&A portion, and it's time to hear our candidates closing our remarks. Please, Lauren, the order that we're gonna go in is the reverse of how we started. So Ronan and then Travis and Jay.
Yeah, so again, thank you all for coming here and listening to what we had to say. I think what you hopefully took away from this candidate forum was that all of us as candidates really hold values that our county and our student body hold together as well, right? These progressive values that we talk about. But unfortunately, a lot of these values aren't acted on by the county, right? We haven't done enough for affordable housing. We haven't done enough for the environment. What we have done as a county is spent $150 million on a new jail project that reinforces the large racial disparity in the criminal justice system that we already have in the county. We're one of the worst counties in the entire United States in terms of our racial disparities in our criminal justice system. So I think that moving forward as a county, we need to elect representatives that will actually use money in a way that enforces our progressive values as a student body and as a county, and really take action to be a leader for all the other counties in Wisconsin and the country. The final thing I'll say is that, again, this is a historically student-run district, and I think that it's about time we return to that value. And we actually have students being represented on the county board.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, once again, thanks to everyone for hosting this. This has been an amazing event, actually getting to, discuss the nuances of our policy positions that are kind of hard to, come across in social media and other campaign materials. This is a great forum to be able to actually finally, discuss our nuances. And especially with students, like you have a great resource with BadgersVote and all the other campus resources. So make sure you get out and register to vote, even if you're not per se a, Madison resident or even a Wisconsin resident or from out of state. It's important that you still express your voice, but I also understand if you don't want to. I myself voted absentee back home up until this election. So I understand feeling a connection to your hometown community. That's how I felt and everything too. So I understand if you don't want to vote as well. But in my opinion, I would say you should. Maybe that's because I'm a bit selfish because I'm running for the seat. But in all honesty, I'm a person who takes action. I didn't get to mention in my opening because I forgot it, but, I'm not a person that stands quietly. I caused a ruckus in my hometown, got a cops calling me when I found out that I was HIV positive from a cheating ex, partner. I took action. I serve on the UW Health HIV/AIDS Community Advisory Council. I'm actually having a meeting tomorrow where I'm likely to be elected the co-chair of that. And so I'm a person that has gone through a lot in life, and I'm going to be going back to grad school specifically because I see the value of more education and apply my experience as a student going forward. And I hope to be able to use my experience from the graduate student's perspective. We already have a guaranteed freshman on board. He's actually in attendance here. Henry in District 5 is going to be our guaranteed undergrad representative because he's the only one running District 5. So I hope to represent the other side of the spectrum of student voices. Grad students are also a massive part of this.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you all for attending and staying through the full hour. I think this has been a very valuable opportunity to talk about positions and think through, the respective positions of candidates. In thinking about my policy priorities for the next term, there are 3 things that I am dedicated to working on. The first is improving food access, because there's no more fundamental and foundational improvement contribution that government can make to improving the lives of citizens in the community than through making sure everyone has something to eat. And even in District 13, where we might see so much abundance, there are about 130 meals at least served from one food bank on University Avenue. We know the need is there, and the county is a very real, very tangible thing the county can do to improve the lives of people in District 13. Also, to broadly affect affordable housing across Madison, across the county, and then also to address the climate crisis in a real way. We've kind of skirted around it, but we can do some real concrete things through county government, including land acquisitions, planting native species that sequester carbon more effectively, working towards carbon neutrality in county operations. Speed that up. Right now it's slated for 2030. We can do things to take action further and faster on these issues. I think that overall, looking at the race and issues of representation, and I want to acknowledge the hard work, good work of my campaign manager, Logan, who informs my campaign, as well as other students who have volunteered to aid in my canvassing effort. And I can commit that students will always have a voice at the table in District 13 to improve the state of the campus constituency.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. So for our final remarks, first, does our CANA representative have anything that they want to add? Sarah, anything?
Yeah, so I just want to thank BadgersVote for helping us out with this hosting. I also want to thank the candidates for joining us. It is so important that we learn and participate in local government. I'd really like to thank the audience then for your questions and for your time tonight and for engaging. Again, this is so important. If you have any questions about voting again or ASM or student government, come visit me. Come visit the office. Like I said, it's open 9 to 5 weekdays. Happy to provide more information there. And the last thing, I just want to provide a special shout out to ASM Shared Governance, who meets every Tuesday in here from 5:30 to 6:30. If you're interested in joining them, again, contact me. I can connect you. And ASM Legislative Affairs, ran by Kelsey, which meets in here every other Tuesday, this would have been our on week. But they graciously allowed us to use this space during the meeting times. So I'm very thankful for them. So feel free to stop by after and ask any questions about those, or if you have any questions about voting.
Yeah. Yeah, so before everyone heads out, we do have some like little things you can grab. Joining BadgersVote bookmarks. These have all of your election dates for 2024 for our municipality. On February 20th, which is where the primary is for these candidates. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us with BadgersVote. Otherwise, the city clerk's office has a phone that you can call that you can reach someone at any point during the day. If you have any further questions or want any more information, like Sarah said, reach out to ASM, reach out to BadgersVote, reach out to City Clerk's office, Leading Room Voters. We have all kinds of resources available to our students as well as community members. Also something that a little extra information to highlight on the screen, just a little informational thing that we have created for BadgersVote, including election dates, information, stuff like that. Also, if you want to look at the map and see actually what District 13 looks like for the Dane County Supervisor position. There's also additional information on there about some other primaries that are going on the 20th for other parts of Madison and Dane County. And if you are unaware of your polling location or other information, you can look on the My Vote Wisconsin website. Additionally, more resources and information are available on the vote.wisconsin website, and like I referenced previously as well, the City of Madison as well.
All right, thank you so much for coming and for candidates for being here. Have a great rest of your evening.